Welcome in. It is the Monday, September 1 edition of the NFL Spotlight Show. I am your host, Ari Meirov. We are presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, and it is here. Game week is here after the entire offseason, all the talk, all the negotiation, who will take the step up, all the contracts given out, free agency, draft, rookies, you name it. We had all of it. Week 1, it is here. It starts on Thursday night. Cowboys and Eagles. It feels so good to say that we're going to have actual real football this week. A game on Thursday, a game on Friday, a bunch of games on Sunday, and of course, Monday Night Football to wrap it up. It feels so good to say that. And on today's episode, we're going to give you my 10 storylines to watch going into week 1 here on Monday's episode to start off the week. Let me bring in my good friend Ben Allen. Ben, what is going on? How good does it feel? Football is back, baby.
It's so exciting. All right, I really thought about grabbing my helmet over my shoulder and sticking it on my head for when we start. Last time I did it, though, I got it stuck and couldn't get it off for 10 minutes. So decided not going to do that right now. But I'm hyped. I'm hyped. I mean, and particularly, man, like what a game to start the season with after everything that's been going on with Micah Parsons. It's going to be electric. I'm excited. I know you're excited. It feels good. So that's why we got to talk about what we need to be watching. Like, obviously, we've spent the entire offseason of like, here's the big overarching things, but week 1 is here. People are ready. People want fantasy advice. People want everything they can know. So tell me, what are 10 things that you're going to be keeping an eye on as we lead up to Thursday?
Yeah, I'm going to start with the game on Thursday night, Eagles and Cowboys. Eagles defending Super Bowl champions. It is banner night. The link is going to be rocking. Eagles coming in, winning their second Super Bowl. You know that place is going to be going crazy. And they get to face a division rival and the Dallas Cowboys with all the stuff, like you mentioned, that has been going on around this team all offseason long, with Micah Parsons finally getting traded on Thursday, getting introduced in Green Bay. Now you have a new player in Kenny Clark coming in. The number one storyline to start this off is about the Cowboys. I mean, how is this team going to respond? I think it's going to be a very, very key point for the entire season for the Dallas Cowboys. I was talking to somebody who is close to the new head coach, Brian Schottenheimer, and just trying to understand just how much he's going through and how much he has gone through so far as a first-time head coach with this entire Micah Parsons drama. And for what it's worth, Micah was really cool with Shotty. He wanted to play for him, but of course, the contract situation held him up for practicing for the new head coach. And of course, he's not there anymore. But this game on Thursday night is really going to set the tone for the Cowboys for the rest of the year, in my opinion. Like, if this is a game where you have Shotty, the new head coach, the new defensive coordinator, and Matt Eberflus, and for me, it's not even about winning the game. Winning will be great, but if they just have to be competitive in this game, because if they get the doors blown off of you here in the first game versus the Eagles defending champs, the talking point right away on Friday morning is once again going back to the Micah Parsons trade, going back to Jerry Jones doing stuff that he shouldn't be doing for the organization and where the roster is, $60 million a year quarterback. They need to be at least competitive in this game so that moving forward, everyone could finally move on from the entire Micah Parsons stuff that we've been talking about for the last several months and say, okay, fine, at least this team was able to go toe-in-toe versus the defending champions, the best team in football. If they can do that, the talking points, once again, come Friday morning, will be all about the past in Dallas and if they could do it and if they're legit and all these different things. So my number one storyline is just that. How are they going to play? Again, I don't need them to win. Winning would be cool. It would be great. They are big underdogs in this game, but at least keep this game competitive going into the fourth quarter and show that you could compete against a team like the Philadelphia Eagles. If they get blown out, I mean, the talking points, the overreactions going into week 2 for 10 full days, it's going to be out of control.
And we'll talk a little bit about that game tomorrow during our FanDuel segment that we'll have during our Spotlight guests, which we're going to reveal at the end here who it's going to be because we've got a special one leading into this week 1. All right, Ari, what's number 2 on your list?
Yeah, I'm going to go over here. And this is one that we saw it in the preseason, but I don't think all the fans are fully used to it. Week 1, starting Thursday night, we have a new kickoff rule adjustment coming up. Last year, we got the entire new kickoff rule where the dynamic kickoff rule, it looks different. It looks crazy. It was a pretty big success for the NFL. They approved something else over here this offseason where now a touchback, it doesn't go to the 30-yard line. It now goes to the 35-yard line instead of the 30-yard line, which is where it was last year. And the NFL, they want more returns. Now, I'll give some data here to explain what's going on. Last year, the NFL saw over 330 more returns than previously under the old kickoff system. That was up from 21% to 33%. This preseason, the NFL had 80% of the kickoffs returned. And I spoke to somebody who's from the league office who's involved in all of this. That data told them that we're going to see a lot more returns this year because, as we all know, the preseason is where coaches practice their stuff for the upcoming season. So 80% of the kickoffs this preseason were returned. So they're going to try to get returns over here because you don't want to kick it out of the end zone and have offenses starting at the 35-yard line. And what this person told me is kind of true. In the preseason, we saw the Jaguars kicker, Cam Little, kick a 70-yard field goal. So if your kicker could hit a 70-yard field goal and you kick a touchback to start the offensive possession, that means you are 13 yards away from field goal range for some guys. So you don't want them to start at the 35-yard line. You're going to have more returns here coming up this NFL season. They want the number to be over 50% of kicks to be returned this year. Again, last year was about 33%. They want it to be at least over 50. And I think they're going to get close to 60% this year when it comes to kickoffs. And my bold prediction over here, I don't really do predictions, but I think we're going to have at least 2 kickoff return touchdowns here in week 1 as a result of this rule. So that is where I'm going with all of this. Get ready for more returns. Get ready for more electric stuff. The NFL wants to return back in the game, and I think it's going to be back in the game in a big way here this season.
Did we have any weeks last year where we had 2 in the same week?
I don't recall. There might have been. I have to double check that. I don't recall, but the returns were definitely up last year to an extent, and it's going to be up way more this year. And I've not seen many people talk about it, but I don't think defensive coordinators, head coaches want offensive starting at the 35. I think they're okay trying to kick it from into that zone where you must return it and see where it goes. So we're going to see more returns here this year, and it's going to start up here in week 1.
Founding father of the dynamic kickoff, Darren Rizzi, was our second guest on NFL Spotlight this past year. Weird to say, this past year, second season of NFL Spotlight didn't really have like an official starting date, but I guess let's call it today. Today is the start of the second season of NFL Spotlight, week 1. It's been over a year. Who cares? All right, Ari, what's number 3?
Number 3, we talked about this team so much this offseason. The Cincinnati Bengals, they've had slow starts every single year under Zach Taylor. In fact, the Bengals are 1-11 in the first 2 weeks of the season under Zach Taylor since he became the head coach 6 seasons ago. If you go through the first 3 weeks of the season, they are 4-13-1. They have started 0-2 in each of the last 3 years. They started 0-3 last season. They tried every little thing this offseason to try to get out of that bad start. They play their starters in the preseason. We saw Joe Burrow playing multiple possessions in that Washington Commanders game, which was on Monday Night Football. They got all their offseason checklist stuff checked off. They got the Jamar deal done. They got the T. Higgins deal done. It took some time, but they figured something out with Trey Hendrickson. They got Mike Gesicki done. They got Shamar Stewart eventually done. They even signed some free agents with Noah Fant and Dalton Reisner over here last week. They have done everything they needed to do to have this team all the way locked in. Can they win in week 1? That is the question. And it's not like they have a tough game. It's against the Cleveland Browns. In their last 5 matchups versus the Browns, they've won 4 of those games. You got to start fast. We know the Bengals last 2 years, they have not made the playoffs. For this caliber of a team, for that quarterback, for those receivers, for that offense, that should not be the case. And it all dates back to the start of the season. So are they going to be able to go off, win game 1, and get off to a fast start in 2025 is a storyline to watch. Their first 3 games of the year, they have the Browns here in week 1, the Jaguars in week 2, and the Vikings in week 3. Of course, the Vikings have a new quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. That game, Jordan Addison will still be suspended. They have a chance to start this year fast. And of course, it all starts on Sunday versus the Cleveland Browns, and we'll see how that goes.
You know, Joe Burrow better do well week 1 because we're in a pick'em league this year where we have to go through and pick one matchup every week to be correct. And that's what I picked week 1. I can't be out after week 1.
And by the way, many people, including myself, I do Survivor, got knocked out last year because remember, that was Bengals, Patriots. Everyone said Bengals would win. That was Patriots. This team is now good. Of course, they were not good all year. And of course, the Patriots and Gerard Mayo won that game in week 1. So even if it looks like they should win, they've been losing. And this is a game they should win, and we'll see if they could win. Let's go on to number 4 over here. And I'm going to stick with the AFC North, and I'm going to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And of course, we know they've had a lot of change here this offseason. Aaron Rodgers is in, DK Metcalf is in, George Pickens is out, Jalen Ramsey is in, Jonnu Smith is in. I will give them credit for one thing here. Rodgers and the Steelers have done a pretty good job since he was signed late in the offseason of this not becoming too much of a paparazzi thing, not too much of a overblown, media coverage of him signing with the team. It hasn't been any crazy distractions. He has not been on the McAfee show. No crazy quotes coming out of there. No crazy interviews. That's been good. We'll see if he does any McAfee appearances throughout the season the way he's done the last 5 years. But you look at, this is probably his last season, I should say. He said that much a couple of months ago when he did an interview. So this might be his last year, and how will that look? And his first game is going to be versus former team, the New York Jets, at MetLife Stadium. The NFL schedule maker said if we knew Aaron was going to play this year, that game will not be at 1 o'clock Eastern. Of course, the schedule came out before he signed in Pittsburgh. But I look at Aaron Rodgers, and I did some digging on the numbers. Over the last 4 years, in week 1, Rodgers has just 1 touchdown pass. He has thrown 4 interceptions in those week 1 games, and he's been sacked 7 times. He never had more than 200 yards passing in those games. And of course, one of those games was the torn Achilles Monday night game versus the Buffalo Bills. But point being, those other 3 games were not good either. So will he have that fast start? Will he have that chemistry of DK Metcalf with the rest of the receivers, Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, Jalen Warren as the new running back, Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator? Those are all big questions for me. And will they have that fast start over here this season as well? And will this be a refreshed Aaron Rodgers, a motivated Aaron Rodgers? Again, I give them credit. There was not much hoopla around the Steelers this entire training camp the way I thought there might be. So that's a good thing. And let's see how they play here in week 1 versus former team, the New York Jets. That will be one to watch for sure this week.
I love these schedule makers. I'm getting hyped. Like, I'm actually getting hyped. Like, as you're saying every single thing, it's like, oh yeah, that is what's happening this week. Oh yeah, that is what's happening this week. Give us another one to be excited about. I hope this one's not the letdown.
No, it's not the letdown. We're going to go to probably the marquee game of that late window on Sunday, 4:25 Eastern. It's on CBS, even though it is 2 NFC teams. The NFC North matchup of the Lions and the Packers. That's going to be a fun one, especially now that Micah Parsons is coming in. Let me just focus on the Lions first over here. New coordinators, Ben Johnson out, Aaron Glenn out, Johnny Morton takes over on the offensive side, Kelvin Shepard takes over on the defensive side, and then Frank Ragnow retiring this offseason is such a big deal because he would call out the blitzes. He, of course, was one of the better centers in the NFL during his time with Detroit. Those are 3 enormous voices no longer there with the Detroit Lions. How they adjust to all of that, losing all 3 of them, all the new voices. I think everyone has thought, and I get it, that the Lions are going to be, the same amazing team, and they should be. They have all these incredible players, but those are 3 massive voices who are no longer with the organization. And I want to see how they're able to adjust to losing all 3 of them in one offseason. I will say Dan Campbell was prepared the last couple of years, knowing that he has some brilliant offensive coordinators on his staff. So he knew this was coming. But again, all these players adjusting to everything and changing everything. For the most part, the verbiage when it comes to the scheme and the plays is for the most part the same. But again, the play-to-play and all those different things throughout the course of a game, it's going to be somebody else in the helmet of Jared Goff and somebody else in the green dot for the defender. So that is a big change over here for this team. We'll see how that goes in the first game of the year against this Packers team, which of course has so much momentum and so much excitement now that you have Micah Parsons coming in. And I just want to focus on the fact that Micah is coming in and the big difference that it'll have for a team like that. Jeff Hafley, in my opinion, is one of the more brilliant defensive minds in football. He's only been in the NFL with the Packers. This is now his 2nd season there. But I thought he was somebody who could have even gotten a head coach potential here this past offseason. I think he interviewed with one team, the New York Jets. But he is really, really brilliant. What he did last year, his defense is all about disguise. Like, he'll drop
a defensive end into coverage. He'll blitz a linebacker. He sometimes will move Rashawn Gary inside just to keep the offenses guessing. Last year, he wasn't able to just rush 4 guys and get pressure. It wasn't really working. So he really had to do all these different disguises to make it work. Now you add Micah Parsons, that creates a whole different element to this defense, to the point where I think they're perfectly fine rushing 4 and dropping 7, and that could make offenses a nightmare for offenses. So that element of it and how it all goes here in week 1 will be fun to watch over here, and the disguise that he'll put off over here. Micah Parsons said his opening press conference, he likes being moved around, left side, right side, I'll move in. He'll do it all. So that element of it for this defense will be fun, and we'll see how the new offensive coordinator in Detroit, Johnny Morton, responds to all of that Jeff Hafley will be bringing over here on Sunday in that marquee game with Jim Nantz and Tony Romo calling the game on CBS.
How do you remember all of the different broadcasts? Do you just have that cataloged in there that you just immediately know? NBC, 4 o'clock, like what's all in the head there?
First of all, for week 1, I think every fan should know who especially the marquee.
Every fan should. Your producer,
yes.
Co-host doesn't.
Well, that's a problem, Ben. You should know that. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo are calling the Packers and Lions game. I mean, we all know, it's so everyone knows the NBC game, who that is. Everyone knows the Monday night game. Everyone knows the Thursday night game. Everyone, you should know that. And then the fact that you don't is very disappointing, Ben.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll take that as an L for the day, and
wait. Let me just ask you: do you know which game Tom Brady is calling week 1?
I can't remember. Obviously, I know he's doing a Fox broadcast.
Okay. He's doing Giants and Commanders.
That's right. And you know what they're going to allow him to do now? He's allowed to zoom into those production meetings. Isn't that exciting?
That is right. And there's a big conflict of interest, but we will not get to that here today on today's show.
Okay,
but
let's talk about this for a split second, though. Shaquille O'Neal doesn't get any heat for this, and he owns part of the Sacramento Kings. I've never understood this. This is getting away from the point. You don't need to be worried about that entering week 1 if you're a fan. But make sure that you know who all the broadcast teams are, or Ari will shame you. Anyway, what's next?
I could have a whole conversation about the entire conflict of interest thing, but we won't do it here today. Anyways, on to topic number 6 here. I'm going to lump all of these quarterbacks into one. The sophomore quarterbacks going into year 2. Let's start with the Monday night game, which is going to be Bears and Vikings. That is Caleb Williams and JJ McCarthy. I don't think there are any other 2 young quarterbacks who are set up for success more than what these 2 are getting going into the season. Caleb gets Ben Johnson, Joe Tooney, Drew Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, Colson Loveland, Luther Burden. Of course, JJ McCarthy is now the starter. He already has Kevin O'Connell. You have Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason. The offensive line was revamped with Wolf Rise and Ryan Kelly and Donovan Jackson. These 2 guys, the offenses are set up for them to have success this year. And for this game, for me, it's really all about, you want to see that these head coach quarterback pairings have some promise over here. And that's really all you want to see in this game here on Monday night, which will be the final game, which will be Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, by the way, Ben, for that game. As for the other quarterbacks, when it comes to the sophomore guys, Michael Penix starting for the Atlanta Falcons versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We've heard all offseason long. We did the Falcons preview last week with ESPN's Mark Raimondi here on the YouTube page. Go check it out if you have not done so yet. They've been talking about Michael Penix. He has been amazing. He's been great. He's been making all the passes. The offensive line, there was one gigantic loss that happened after that recording that we did with the Falcons preview. Their right tackle, Caleb McGarry, who is the blindside protector for a lefty quarterback in Michael Penix, is now out for the year with a knee injury. That is pretty significant. They're going to have Elijah Wilkinson now starting there. That is a pretty big loss there in Atlanta. We'll see how they're able to do with him not there for the entire season. And with those Tampa Bay pass rushers coming in, Hassan Reddick, new Buccaneers pass rusher, he's going to have a chance to get to his blind side, which is one very, very big thing to watch. But the Penix thing, the idea of Kirk Cousins still being on the bench, I still have my concerns with it, because Penix better not have a rough start to the year, because those questions are going to creep up. If your backup quarterback is Easton Stick, no one's going to bring up the idea of, oh, maybe play Easton Stick. But if Michael Penix struggles to start the year, that element will be brought up, and that is definitely one to watch with Michael Penix. Drake May, the number 3 overall pick last year, and this new Josh McDaniels offense. We did the Patriots preview last week on Thursday. Doug Hyde was on the show from the Boston Herald. He said there were moments early on where it felt like it was a little bit too much for him, and eventually he started settling in. But that Josh McDaniels offense is really, really complex. We've heard it from many different quarterbacks, whether he was with different teams or during his time in New England, for example, with Mac Jones. That is not an easy thing to learn. And of course, they've been trying to figure out who the receivers are as well throughout all of this. So how does he do against the Raiders? I think that is a perfect matchup in week one of Raiders and Patriots. I feel like both teams are at the same level, at least on paper, will tell us a lot about both those teams. Jaden Daniels, of course, Offensive Rookie of the Year last season, number 2 overall pick. The expectations now are just so high this year for Jaden Daniels. It is very reminiscent to what CJ Stroud had last year going into his sophomore year. And CJ had a good year, but it was not the year everyone was expecting him to have after the rookie year that he had. Could Jaden really take that next step and elevate himself the way everyone is expecting him to? And I would just note for this week 1 game versus the Giants, this is Terry McLaurin is now finally back at practice. He finally got paid. Sam Cosmi, his probably the best offensive lineman on that team, is out for the first 4 games of the year because he is still recovering from the ACL injury he had last year in the playoffs. And then you go against this Giants defense, and they're going to be bringing Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns and Abdul Carter and Kayvon Thibodeau. That is not an easy matchup, at least for Jaden Daniels over here in week 1. So everyone has, sky high expectations for him. I get it, but let's see how he does off the bat over here in week 1. And then lastly, the last sophomore quarterback is Bo Nix in Denver. And I don't think there was a single team this entire offseason that was hyped up more than the Broncos. I mean, I saw people saying Super Bowl for them. I saw people saying they're going to win the AFC West. Don't get me wrong. They have an unbelievable roster. They have an amazing defense. Bo Nix was great last year. They have new running backs. Sean Payton is brilliant. The offensive line is great. All that is amazing. Their week 1 matchup is versus the Tennessee Titans. That was the worst team in football last year. They better get off the hot start over here in week 1, because if they don't, I think people are going to be like, wait, we were hyping up that team. So those are the 6 sophomore quarterbacks from rookie quarterbacks from last year going into the year 2. Let's see how they all do over here in week 1. All of them for different reasons, but very, very interesting. Very, very interested to see how all 6 do in week 1.
That's a lot to keep track of. We're not making this 16 storylines, but we'll allow it. We'll allow that as one grouping. I'm really worried that this is going to become a recurring theme of you schooling me or questioning me on who the broadcast teams are going to be. Now I have to worry about this every day. Thank you for that, by the way. I'm glad that's getting worked into the answers. But you are doing a good job with the promoting of our show, so not all is wrong. Okay, Ari, what's next?
Yeah, next up. So we just spoke about Michael Penix Jr. with the Falcons. I want to focus about the Bucs and Falcons game, which is coming up obviously on Sunday. These were the top 2 teams in the NFC South last year. People kind of forget the Falcons actually won both games versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year, but Tampa still won the division. The thing that I'm watching in this game, aside from the quarterbacks, obviously, is the Buccaneers will be without Tristan Wirfs, their all-pro left tackle. They'll also be without their wide receiver and Chris Godwin. The reason I mentioned Tristan Wirfs, though, is we know that the Falcons' pass rush and getting to the quarterback has been among, and I think the worst in football the last couple of years. And they went all out to address that this offseason. They drafted James Pierce. They drafted Jalon Walker. They signed Leonard Floyd. They have other players on the team like a Caden Ellis. They have done everything they possibly could to try to get to the quarterback. They had a new defensive coordinator in Jeff Ulbrich. They have done everything possible. And you get a gift. You get the Buccaneers in week 1, which usually is not a gift, but that is without Tristan Wirfs. And now let's see if these guys could actually get to the quarterback versus Baker Mayfield and that offense, which also will not have Chris Godwin. So you're down a receiver as well. So that is a storyline to watch as well, because for the Falcons to have the success they want to have this year, to take that next step, to finally make the playoffs, they've been stuck on 7-8 wins the last 4 or 5 years. They want to take that next step. You are not taking that next step without getting a pass rush in the NFL in 2025. And they have not had a pass rush for the last several years. I think they were dead last in sacks the last couple of years, and they went all out to add these pass rushers. So now you have these guys. Let's see how they do in week 1 when Tristan Wirfs, arguably one of the very best left tackles in football, the All-Pro last year, is not playing in this game. That is a sneaky storyline to watch over here as well in that 1 o'clock window on Sunday.
All right, Ari, we're nearing the end of the list. What do you got next?
Texans Rams is the other game over here on Sunday in that late window. We talked about Lions Packers before. There has been a lot of talk this offseason about Matthew Stafford and his back. He has been practicing the last week and a half, 2 weeks. So he's been back out there. But I think everybody knows, especially if you know anybody from the age 35 and up, everyone deals with back pain at some point in their life. And Matthew Stafford has been dealing with back pain all offseason long. He's had an injection. He's had all these different things over here to try to get himself in shape. And now they're going to have a real game in week 1 versus the Houston Texans. And I think the Texans defense is not talked about enough about just how good this defense could be this year. You have Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter rushing the passer. You have 2 outstanding cornerbacks in Derek Stingley and Kamari Lassiter. Like, this is a pretty legit defense over here in Houston, and they're going to be taking on Matthew Stafford. And I'm going to be watching that first hit he takes. I mean, let's see what ends up happening. I mean, Matthew Stafford is one of the grittiest, toughest players, has played through every injury imaginable, a lot of injuries we don't even know about that he's played under. His wife every year eventually has to reveal all of it, and people's minds are blown. But at some point, it kind of gets to you, and I'll just be watching that first hit. And I think there's the element of this as well. Alaric Jackson, their left tackle for the Rams, who they paid this offseason, he's been returning. He's been trying to get back from blood clots. He has been practicing as of late, but we'll see if he actually plays in week 1. If he doesn't, that's even another element to this game that we're going to be watching when it comes to all of this. So that part of it from the Rams side. And from the Texans side, their offensive line has been revamped completely. 4 new starters this year. Their offensive line projected right now is the second-round rookie Arante Ursary out of Minnesota is going to be the left tackle. Laken Tomlinson, left guard. Jake Andrews is projected to be the center. Ed Ingram, who they traded for from Minnesota, is going to be the right guard. And the only incumbent starter is Titus Howard at right tackle. How that offensive line shakes out, how they do versus this underrated Rams defensive line, that is one to watch, because for the Texans to go anywhere this year, that offensive line has got to be better. They made so many moves this offseason, changing the pieces. Laramie Tunsil out, Shaq Mason out, Kenyon Green out. They have guys who were starting last year who have been demoted to backups. That is one to watch. And then the new offensive coordinator in Houston, his name is Nick Caley. He actually comes from the Rams, who is going to be playing here in his first game. He was their tight ends coach and pass game coordinator last year. He was a number of teams trying to get him this offseason, including the New York Jets. He goes to the Houston Texans. And this is a name to watch over here because the Texans fired Bobby Slowick, who a year ago was one of the hot candidates in the NFL. They wanted to give C.J. Stroud more control, influence in the offense, and Caley has done that. And Ben, you could attest to this. We had John Stryker, the Patriots game management strategy guy, executive on the show last year. The last question we ask every guest on the show, as you know, as everybody knows over here, is who do you think should be in the spotlight in the future? He gave his answer, and after he was done, once we finished recording, he was like, I should have mentioned one more name. He said Nick Caley, who, of course, is now the Texans offensive coordinator. He's like, that guy is brilliant. They were both together in LA last year with the Rams. He said he's going to be an awesome offensive coordinator for C.J. Stroud, and he's going to be a head coach in the NFL in the next couple of years, mark my words. And I take everything John Stryker says to be, like, he's as legit as it gets. So that is one to watch over here, how he does with C.J. Stroud, with that offense. Nico Collins, the 2 rookie receivers they drafted out of Iowa State. Christian Kirk is in. They have a lot of pieces. The offensive line is a big part of this, but Nick Caley was a gigantic hire in Houston this offseason. It was a very bold move by DeMeco Ryans to fire Bobby Slowick and move on from a guy he was very close to. He goes out there and hires Nick Caley, and let's see how he does over here in week 1 versus very, very good Rams defense.
All right, Ari, near in the end here. What you got?
I think we have 2 more here, if my math is correct. I'm going to do the rookies here. We're not spoken much about rookies when it comes to all this. Number 1, Cam Ward. Tight ends. I mean, that roster is not the greatest roster in the world. They were the worst team in football for a reason last year. They tried to revamp it over here, but you cannot ask for a worse matchup for him in week 1 of his NFL career against the Broncos in Denver. And that Broncos defense, we talked about it a second ago. We know the roster is really, really good. But when you name all the names that Denver has over here with Zach Allen, DJ Jones, Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper, John Franklin Myers, Dre Greenlaw, Patrick Tant, Delano Hufanga, Riley Moss, Brandon Jones, the first round pick this year, Jahdae Barron. Like, this defense top to bottom is unbelievable. And you add on top of it, you're going to Denver in the altitude and that fan base, which is absolutely insane and very loud. That is going to be a very, very tough matchup over here for Cam Ward. But like we've said on the show many times, like a few people have tweeted, including myself, Cam Ward might have been the least talked about number 1 overall pick quarterback we've had since maybe Alex Smith in like 2005, the least talked about number 1 pick since like 2013 with Eric Fisher. Like, no one has talked about him. So let's see what he did throughout all this in training camp. And he gets one of the tougher matchups you could get in week 1. And trust me, it doesn't get any easier in week 2 because he gets the LA Rams after that. So very, very difficult matchup. I'm really excited to see how he does. That is also in that late window on Sunday at 4:05 Eastern. The other rookie I want to bring up over here is Travis Hunter, who, if he was also in any other place besides Jacksonville, if he was drafted by, I don't know, Dallas, Giants, whatever it is, we'll be talking about him much more. This entire training camp, they've been trying him on both spots, receiver and cornerback. And that is going to be apparently the plan over here in week 1 versus the Carolina Panthers. So, I mean, people have been doubting it. I saw Devontae Adams said it's hard for him to do. He can't imagine it. We've seen Travis Kelce out there and say that if I was an offensive player going up against Travis Hunter, I would be just running deep every single play to gas him out. I think Jim Nantz, the amazing broadcaster, said on CBS on one of the morning shows that he can envision it actually working out. People are doubting Travis Hunter. We're going to see how it actually looks in week 1 versus the Carolina Panthers in that 1 o'clock window. That's a sneaky fun matchup there on Sunday.
Yeah, and the most importantly, the person that doesn't doubt Travis Hunter is Travis Hunter. I'm not sure there's ever been a person more confident in themselves entering the league when it comes to what their role is going to be. And he has been sure as hell saying a whole lot, I'm doing both things. So it's going to be very interesting to watch. I know that there are a lot of guys out there that are very curious to see if this is going to be an Ohtani situation or if we're about to see a DB wide receiver who's just exhausted the whole time. All right, Ari, what's left? Or what's left? What's left? One left. Let's do it.
Yeah, last one here. I think the best game on paper when it comes to this week, Sunday Night Football, Bills and Ravens. I mean, these were the 2 quarterbacks last year who were going head-to-head for MVP till even this training camp. I saw a bunch of fans arguing that it should have been Lamar winning his 3rd MVP, not Josh Allen. Well, both these guys go out there in primetime on Sunday Night Football. It should be the best game of the entire slate. And what I'll say about this game, I won't get into all the weeds about the game. We'll do that later in the week. It's week 1. You don't want to overreact to this stuff, but I have a feeling that this game we'll be looking back at week 17, week 18 when it comes to seeding. That's how confident I am when it comes to these 2 teams. Last year, Bills 13-4, Ravens 12-5. Like, these 2 teams are right there neck and neck every single year when it comes to division standings. We know the head-to-head stuff. We know how important home field advantage is in the playoffs. Listen, the NFL wanted to put a banger on there in week 1. I get it. I would rather have this game be later in the year because I think it'll have more to it when it comes to, the playoff scenarios and the seeding and all of that. I have a feeling this game, and we'll come back to this recording at some point in November, December. I have a feeling this game, the result of this, we will be talking about it come later this season when it comes to seeding. It's not a crazy prediction I'm making here. Obviously, the 2 best teams in football, but I have a feeling that this game, whatever happens here, that will be the team that ends up with the higher seed in the playoffs, and that will be the team that ends up having home field advantage in the postseason. So I think whoever wins this game will be looking back at it eventually over here. I know the record will be 1-0 and 0-1. We have so many games left. It's going to have that big of an impact, and that's crazy to say for a week 1 game.
Ari, how have you gone this entire time without mentioning the Kansas City Chiefs?
Well, that is going to be my bonus thing that I'm going to have.
I didn't know that was going to be it, but yeah. I was genuinely like, if we don't talk about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, no one is going to click on this.
Well, I don't even know if they're going to, will Taylor be there? I have no idea, but that's not really what my topic is. My 11th bonus topic, whatever you want to call it, storyline for this upcoming season involves that Chiefs-Chargers game in Brazil on Friday night. Keep in mind that game is in Brazil. And I'm not going to talk about the teams primarily here, but let's see if fans remember this. Last year, Packers and Eagles was in Brazil. The field conditions for that game is my final topic for this thing. Chargers, Chiefs in Brazil. That field was a slippery slope last year for Eagles, Packers. Saquon Barkley was Offensive Player of the Year this past season, right? He was unbelievable, remarkable, Madden cover, everything amazing. His first carry as an Eagle was a 5-yard loss because he slipped on the field. Okay, like people forget all this. A number of players lost their footing. Eagles players after the game, even though they won, said they were getting memories of the Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs because that game was also a slippery slope. LeBron James, in middle of this game last year, tweeted, "Man, this field sucks." So the field conditions in Brazil for Chiefs Chargers is a storyline to watch as well when Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Justin Herbert and the entire Chiefs and Chargers team take the field on Friday night in Brazil. That's my final topic over here. And yes, we will talk more about these games here throughout the week. It's only Monday, Ben. We still have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday here on the show. We'll talk more about players, teams, situations, injuries, and much more here on NFL Spotlight.
I'm stoked. I'm freaking pumped. It's exciting. Another reason to be excited, though, is our special Spotlight guest. You want to go ahead and reveal who it is?
Yep. As everybody knows who watches this show, every single Tuesday we have a spotlight guest on the show. That's why the show is called NFL Spotlight. Somebody from the NFL who deserves more recognition, more attention, could be a player, coach, executive, whoever it is. And this week we will be joined by Carolina Panthers offensive coordinator Brad Idzik. He was hired last offseason, was actually the youngest offensive coordinator in football when he was hired last year. And we know the Panthers last year, as the year went on, the offense got better and better to the point where the final 3 games of the year, they won 2 of those games. Bryce Young had 0 turnovers, 10 touchdowns, I should say, and over 600 yards in that span. He was amazing. And a big part of it is Brad Idzik, and his story is a really, really cool one. This is somebody who always wanted to be involved in the game of football, wanted to be a coach. His father was in the executive world, was a GM at one point, but he wanted to create his own path. And he went away, went to Stanford to try to get his foot in the door, eventually found his way. And he has been with Dave Canales at every point of his career in the NFL, from Seattle to Tampa Bay to now in Carolina. But he is a very, very vital part of what Dave Canales has done in every single spot. And he has a lot of trust in him. And the Carolina Panthers are one of those teams who could have a very, very sneaky, fun offense this year. And Brad Idzik is very much involved in all of that with Bryce and Chuba Hubbard and Tedatura McMillan and Xavier Legette and Jalen Coker. I know he's going to miss the start of the year, but there are a lot of really fun pieces on this team, and he is a very, very big part of putting it all together. And we talk about his journey and path to where he got to this point over here on the show tomorrow. You do not want to miss this close to 40-minute interview with Brad Idzik, the Panthers offensive coordinator.
Yeah, it's a really, really good one. I mean, talk about somebody that was like really reflective. Like a lot of times when we ask, like, what do you think of like getting here? And like a lot of guys just, they don't want to like really get too deep into it. Like, oh, I haven't really thought about it. Like he gave a very thoughtful answer. And I think people are going to really enjoy listening to him. He's very understanding of like who he is. He's very understanding of like the cards he's been dealt in life and being able to take those and use them when needed, but also striking his own path. I don't know. Very interesting. You will definitely not want to miss it. For all of you who are new here, make sure you've hit subscribe if you've made it this far. Hopefully you already have, but hit it right now if you haven't already. A lot of great content that's going to be coming this year. 33rd Team has a whole cool new slate of shows as well coming out. NFL IQ is another show I'm going to be working with a lot with Cynthia Freeland and Logan Ryan. Make sure you head over there. And yeah, just a lot of exciting stuff going on here. So we're happy football's back.
Everybody is happy. Football is back. And like Ben said, make sure you have subscribed right over here on YouTube. If you're listening to us on Apple, Spotify, and all the other podcast platforms, really appreciate that as well. But that will do it here for our Monday, September 1 edition of the NFL Spotlight Show. We will be back here tomorrow morning with our special Spotlight guest of the week with much more football talk and a lot of analysis. And we will see you then.